Hey, what's up guys? Today we're here to talk about shiny Pokemon, because we all know how well that went down last time. So, to help trigger you guys even more, I brought an even bigger asshole who's been on my channel before and you guys loved him.
I'm back, bitches!
Before you get your bagpipes in a twist, this isn't going to be a list of our least favorite shiny Pokemon. These are Injustices. Spectre, let the people know.
Injustice. Lack of fairness or justice. An unjust act or occurrence.
Now, if you're a longtime subscriber, you may be thinking, Pokémon Injustices? That rings a bell. Well, yeah, last year I started up the Injustices series along with my friend the Great Bulbasaurus. To save a long explanation, we failed to deliver weekly videos because we're both busy people, and Spectre is now taking his place. But this time, we're not promising weekly videos, but frequent enough videos that it can be considered a series. If you'd like to go back and watch the first 3 episodes, they'll be included in the playlist for the series in the description, which is where all the new episodes will go to.
Basically, the series is back, but with a new Mexican, and with a twist. Every time we talk about some injustices here, we'll be talking about some justices over on my channel, which there will be a playlist in the description for that series as well.
So with that out of the way, let's talk about some shiny Pokemon Injustices. These are Pokemon whose shinies we feel aren't up to par with their original color scheme, a previous evolution shiny, or their real world basis.
These Pokemon aren't our least favorites. Some are great and maybe your favorite, some are ugly, some are cool, but we believe that Game Freak missed a great opportunity when it comes to their color scheme. So yeah, let's go.
So let's start off as always by talking about our number 10 spot. Shinies that hardly change. Okay, I'll admit, it's maybe a bit of a cop-out, but how mad would you have been if this was the number 1 slot? Or if I didn't mention this at all? Anytime I make a video talking about shiny, there's always people mentioning Garchomp, Pikachu, Gengar being bad just because their shiny doesn't really change much at all.
We decided to get this topic out of the way since at this point it's almost mandatory to mention when talking about shiny Pokemon. But at least the appeal isn't unwarranted. Shinies that hardly change are a bit of a bore and almost aren't worth the amount of work that goes into hunting for one.
The only appeal from having a shiny that hardly changes is the fact that it is a shiny Pokemon. You get a cool little animation when sent into battle, and you can brag about it being rare.
But I think the worst thing about them is that if you were to run into one in the wild and you weren't paying attention, then you may not even notice that you just knocked out or ran away from a shiny.
Now let's move on to more specific Pokemon.
This shiny hits close to home for me, my mascot Chandelure. This is only partially a personal bias, as I'm not the biggest fan of its shiny, though I don't hate it.
The problem isn't that it looks bad, but rather that it went from having a cool, spooky flame in its normal, common form, to making it just a regular colored flame in its much more rare shiny form.
Chandelure is based on the Will-o'-the-Wisp and Hitodama, which, in short, are balls of fire said to be the souls of the dead separated from their bodies. And more often than not, both of these are depicted as being a vibrant light blue color. So why did Game Freak not make their flames light blue?
They already had the right idea with Litwick shiny. It has the light blue flame. So why did the idea not carry over to its evolutions?
Blue flames have been added to Pokemon where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, like Emboar and Ponyta. So why not a Pokemon where it does make sense?
Game Freak, how could you do this to a legendary Pokemon? Taking the 8th spot, we've got Moltres. I know we just recently spoke about how shiny Pokemon without much changes are bad, but I would have preferred that to the coloration shiny Moltres was given.
Articuno and Zapdos were given the not much changes treatment, so why did Moltres go from a yellow-orange color to pink? The least they could have done is change the color of the flames as well to maybe a deep red to complement the pink, but no.
Obviously, we prefer if Articuno and Zapdos didn't go down the hardly changes color route, but since they did, they should have stuck with that when it came to recoloring Moltres.
The pharaohs are rolling over in their extravagant graves for this one. Cofagrigus is an intimidating Pokemon at face value, so why? Just why?
There really isn't much to say here other than that sarcophaguses aren't pink, they're gold or just stone.
This is another example of a Pokemon that we'd rather just didn't change much, rather than what it got. Like Callum said, sarcophaguses are gold, not gray. Not to mention the intimidation factor is severely hindered by its pink accents. Doesn't exactly scream spooky to me.
Taking the 6th spot is Mega Gallade, who, like a lot of Pokemon on this list, don't really have a bad shiny, but they could have been much better. Whenever Mega Gallade got first leaked through Coro scans, there was already a bunch of fan art, a lot of which were in what fans believed its shiny form would be.
Gallade had thus far done a good job of following the color scheme of the other members of the Ralts family. But when Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire finally dropped and the shinies hit the scene, Mega Gallade was lacking one feature fans were sure we would see: a black cape.
I know, just adding black to a shiny Pokemon doesn't make it good. But in this case, it actually would. And it'd be following the trend Mega Gardevoir shiny set with the black dress. This is how awesome they could have looked side by side. But instead, we got this.
It's time to get scientific on your asses. Sharpedo takes our number 5 slot because scientifically, its shiny does not make sense.
In nature, sharks use their coloration as a means of camouflage, with the top sides of their bodies being dark bluish grey to blend in with the ocean depths, and a white underbelly to blend in with the light coming up from the surface.
Exactly, so why pink? What exactly is Sharpedo going to be swimming around to make use of this camouflage? You could argue that it could possibly be using the pink to blend in with beds of Corsola, but that's too oddly specific for a predator of the sea.
I know this is the second one in a row, but I think it should be black in its shiny form. Either that or a lighter color of blue. Just something that still allows it to camouflage without it falling into the hardly changes category we all despise.
Or since there are a lot of connections drawn between them, give it the Garchomp treatment. Not a lot changes in the normal shiny and save the pink for the Mega.
Diggersby, the digging Pokemon. You see that? That's dirt from digging. This Pokemon is all about digging and being in the dirt. So why is its shiny all clean and white? Did shiny Diggersby just decide to dig up paint?
Diggersby's shiny is an injustice due to the simple fact that its color scheme doesn't stay true to its base concept: being dirty. That's like taking a legendary Pokemon that's meant to be intimidating and strike fear into the player, and then making their shiny hot pink. Oh, wait, they did that with Kyogre.
For the most part, 6th generation did a good job with its shiny Pokemon. This is one of the few times where they messed up. Sorry Diggersby, but we're just not digging it.
I want to fucking kill myself.
Come on, Kecleon. The fuck is this shit? Do you know what Kecleon's shiny looks like? This is it, watch. That's it, that's the whole thing.
Before you start in the fucking comments, yes, Spectre and I are aware that there were color palette limitations in the older generation games, but now they have the power to make things right and make Kecleon shiny purple, like the one from Mystery Dungeon and the anime. I don't think anyone would seriously miss a Kecleon with a blue stripe.
While we're on the subject of color limitations, Game Freak could have easily given us a purple shiny Kecleon back in Gen 3, since purple wasn't exactly a hard color to achieve with the Game Boy Advance's color palette. It's not about the limitations of the original coloring of the Pokemon, since the game determines which sprite image to display based on the line of code that represents the Pokemon. So why couldn't Game Freak give us the shiny Kecleon that they teased to us in 2 different canons of the franchise?
Taking the 2nd slot, we have Magcargo. This is one of those shinies that got ruined upon evolving. Seriously, Slugma had the perfect idea with its shiny representing cold lava.
And then Magcargo had to go and fuck it all up. Slugma had a really cool concept that was even scientifically accurate, so why then did Magcargo have to stray from the path?
And with this really gross pink/purple color of all things, not only is it an injustice to Slugma and Magcargo, but it's just bad. But it's not as big of an injustice as our number 1 slot.
Our number 1 shiny Pokemon injustice will come right after these honorable mentions.
Hitmontop, because it doesn't follow the same scheme as Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, even though both Hitmontop and the shiny Pokemon as a whole were introduced in the same generation.
Gulpin and Swalot, though mostly Swalot. In their original color schemes, they're 2 different colors, so why then in their shinies are they suddenly the same colors? They couldn't give Swalot a different color so they can keep on not matching?
And finally, we have Nidoqueen. I've already spoke about this in more detail in a previous video, so I won't go into it too much, but it broke a really cool pattern the Nido family had going on. Fucking Shrek color green.
Vivillon. Oh man, Spectre, no, Vivillon's shiny is so cool, lol disliked. I can already hear you guys typing in the comments. And yes, Vivillon's shiny is cool, especially in its icy snow pattern.
The problem with Vivillon's shiny is that the only part of the changes is its body, and that change is literally a color swap between black and white. They went out of their way to make this Pokemon have a really cool gimmick of having all these different patterned wings, which posed tons of cool shiny opportunities.
But instead of capitalizing on that, Game Freak decided to leave the wings untouched? Like why? You already went through all the effort of making the separate models for all of the shiny Vivillon forms, so why couldn't you change the color of the wings while you were at it? Other winged bug types got their wings changed. Even Dusthawks got different wings, and that was with a color limitation. So why now, with a nearly unlimited Gen 6 color palette, did you choose not to go hog wild on a Pokemon all about looking special?
Even if it got the Garchomp treatment and it didn't look much different on the wings, I'd still prefer that to what we have right now. Like Spectre mentioned earlier, they have some really cool opportunities with this. For example, they could have made the Pokeball pattern shiny blue to represent a Great Ball, like they did with Voltorb and Electrode, or purple like Fungus and Amoonguss representing a Master Ball.
More importantly, why not a Premier Ball? Look at this concept art and tell me that that isn't one of the coolest things you've ever seen. Game Freak, you missed a great opportunity here. Or maybe you purposely chose not to, but either way, when it comes to shinies, you did Vivillon the biggest injustice.
Thank you guys for watching the first episode of the reboot of Pokémon Injustices. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and let us know which shiny Pokemon you think were screwed over. Like we mentioned earlier, we did a video talking about shiny Pokemon Injustices over on Spectre's channel, which you can go check out right now. Link on screen or at the top of the description. Thanks guys.